Hello! Welcome to Sticks and Stones. As you can see, we are in a new studio. So thank you, HMPE Studios. We have a new set, and we have my guest Deborah Betts today to join us.
Yay, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So we're very excited about being back in the new year, being in a new studio, and we have tons of stuff to talk about. So if you're joining us for the first time, Sticks and Stones is a platform for myself and my guests to share words or phrases that you might have told yourself or other people told yourself throughout your life, because words really do affect us quite a bit. And that old adage, sticks and stones will break your bones, but words will never hurt you. I always say I call BS on that. That is just untrue. And we need to learn to be nice to ourselves in our own brain and also decipher, when others are saying things to us, is it really maybe they're having an issue and pushing it out to us? Or is it something worth taking reflection on, and maybe it's somewhere that we could improve? So that's kind of the gist of the show. And how it usually works is I share a phrase or word, and then my guest will share a phrase or word. So we're going to do that today, but we're also going to share our words for the year. I always pick a word for the year, and Deborah does that as well. So I'm gonna ask her what her word is for the year. So 2019, if you have to encapsulate it in one word, what is it?
It actually was a challenge for me to come up with one word because there are so many exciting things going on. But the word that actually ended up choosing me was boldness.
I love that you say your word chose you. Okay, so tell us a little bit about boldness.
Well, I feel like I have a powerful message to share, and to remember that it's not about me, it's about the message and the people who need to hear the message. And so the boldness is about stepping out boldly to reach those people who are struggling with their health, who have big dreams and can't get out of bed in the morning because poor health keeps them from doing that. And so for me, the boldness is about the courage and the boldness to go beyond my comfort zone to reach those people that need to hear the message.
I love it. And a little backstory, I'm working with Deborah on some brand development, and that was a large part of our conversation.
So excited.
Was, owning the brand and the brand voice and the message. Because I'll share a little bit in a few minutes, but she wrote a book this year, and I started reading it, and I helped her lay it out and did a little proofreading, and I just thought, oh my gosh, this is your voice. It's such a clear message, and I know that you really work to be able to own it and not be afraid to shout it from the rooftops.
And I think the reason is because it isn't about me, right? And I've always been, don't shine the light on me, I'll support you. So it isn't about me, it is about you. Matter of fact, the dedication is generic. This book is dedicated to you.
Right.
For that everybody lives in happiness and health.
Right. Because whoever's reading this book and gets to hear your message in whatever forum it is, it can truly change their lives or even spark that first idea, that first step.
Because it's not always the first time we hear something or read it.
Right.
It's when we hear it multiple times. But I want to be part of the drip system.
I love it. I love the word. So my word for 2019 is rise.
I love
Rise.
that. I love that one too.
And I have an interesting story how it came to be. All last year, I was in this shift mode. I was transitioning through a lot of different things where I wanted to go in business. Personally, a lot of things changed for the good. I got married. And I really took time to figure out what I wanted to do with myself and how I wanted to help others. So this year, I wanted to take all of that work and this foundation that I started to build and rise up. So rise to the occasion, step out in faith, rise up to whatever the Lord wants me to do.
Amen.
Amen. But what was interesting was I kept circling around the words action, step out, take action, step out in faith. And it wasn't powerful enough for me. And then it dawned on me. My good friend Missy and my executive coach had given me this giving key about 5 months ago. And it had the word rise on it. And the reason she gave it to me, it makes total perfect sense, but for me it didn't quite resonate.
She was prophetic.
Yet. Yes, she did some foreshadowing. And it clicked in my head. I'm like, oh my word. That key, rise, this is what it was for. That has to be my word. And it encompassed everything that I was trying to say.
I love it.
Yeah. Do you have a giving key with your word yet?
I do. Mine was breathe.
Okay. That was last year, right?
That was last year.
Okay.
Because when we stay so busy, we can forget to breathe. But that's one of the things I encourage people to do is stop and breathe.
Yeah.
It's very important. We have to give our body time our mind time to just catch up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Breathing is something, it's interesting that we all forget to do.
Yeah.
I do.
I know the importance of it.
Yeah.
And you've heard me, I start talking. It's like, breathe.
Just breathe. So I'm curious about out there in Facebook land, what are your word or words for the year? Some people do it in quarters, so they'll have 4 words. Some people take the whole year. Some people do it in months. So I'm curious if you want to shout it out below what the word is and what it means to you. I'd be really interested to get some feedback from you guys and see where your path is taking you in 2019. So let's talk a little bit about some other words. I have been running through in my head this phrase for the entire beginning of the year. January has been an interesting month and jam-packed with ups and downs and unexpected things. And I kept hearing in my head, you don't have time. Have you ever experienced that phrase through your head?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm in recovery.
Yes.
It's do you want me to say more?
Yeah, go for it.
When I catch myself saying I don't have time, it's one of those triggers for me now. Is what am I doing with my time?
Right.
Because maybe you're going to go to this. We have 24 hours.
Right.
And how am I using my time? And what am I saying yes to that I need to say no to? Because I can say yes really, really quickly to a lot of things. And because there's so many awesome opportunities out there.
Right.
But the more I caught myself saying I don't have time, the less time I actually had.
That's very, very true.
Yeah.
And you actually just touched on something that I had to learn to do and actually implement this year, which is learning to prioritize, learning to say no, and really trying to understand what's best for me, my loved ones, my family. And that helped me start to understand what I should say yes to, if I'm gaining value out of it or giving value to others. And also, hallelujah for the Passion Planner is all I have to say. You know,
I have one, and
you
I
have
love
one?
it. Yeah.
yeah. I live in a very digital world, so being, a marketer, a creative strategist, and brand designer, and also with my side business, it's all run online. So I moved over to Google Calendar many, many years ago. But what was happening is I wasn't putting in like the errands you have to run, the work I actually have to do. I have to sit at my desk and do work.
Preparing your meals.
Right, preparing meals, conversations, things that come up. And that got me saying to myself, I don't have time. So I've been using two methods. The online method for like booking appointments and on the fly stuff, but then using that passion planner to book out my entire month with appointments, whether it's business or personal, networking, doctor's appointments. Thank you, Missy, for suggesting I do the whole month instead of the week. And then I make my to-do lists, personal and business, and then I highlight the areas, the pockets of time that I can put those to-do lists in. Oh my gosh, it has helped so much.
It's transforming. It really was beneficial for me.
Yeah. I mean, it just changed my whole mindset, and it took a weight off my shoulders.
And maybe you've done this as well. Because speaking of Missy,
right? Missy plug.
Awesome executive coach.
Yes.
The pause and reflect is
Oh.
taking time at the end of the day or sometime during the day. How am I spending my time? What did it bring value?
Right.
Was it helpful? And if it was or wasn't, then what to do about it.
Yeah. I do that actually in the mornings. And I got in trouble with her a few times because I wasn't getting in at least 5, but now I am.
Getting in at least 5.
5, yeah.
5 what?
5 pause and reflects a week.
A week.
Yeah, 5 pause and reflects a week. So.
Not daily?
Well, stop it. Missy, don't listen to her. So that's the phrase that's been going through my head. I don't have time. And I mean, it just stresses me out even thinking about it right now. But the fact that I'm taking steps that you've talked about, that I've talked about, to try to be intentional about it, and rise to the occasion to control my own dang calendar, and really be intentional about what I'm doing. So let's get to your word or
My
phrase.
word.
But before we do that,
Okay.
I'm going to talk about your book.
Okay.
So Deborah wrote a book. It's called Wake the Health Up, which is so encompassing of how she talks in the book. Your life depends on it. Wake the health up. And as I started to read this, there was a paragraph in there, and I was like, oh my gosh, she has got to be on my show because she's talking about words. One of the best things about this book is it is not just about food and working out. It has to do with everything as a holistic view of our health, which I absolutely love this book because it doesn't just zero in on one thing. It talks about everything that really is part of our health. It's all these pieces that come together to make us whole.
The whole, yeah.
So I'm going to read this little paragraph here. I'm kind of putting Deborah on the spot a little bit. I think she's going to, her word will be sparked by what I read. So this is in the chapter of her journey. So she gives us a little overview of her journey. And she writes, I had to change my story. The story was killing me in more ways than one. In response to the pain and depression I faced in my life, the words and events interpreted by a young child that lay deep in my subconscious were given power. Words like, you don't matter. You should be seen and not heard. If I wanted your opinion, I'd tell you. Who do you think you are? Don't speak unless spoken to. I'm not even aware of when or where I initially heard those words, but when my mental, physical, and spiritual defenses were down, I gave those words power in my life. We all accumulate bad, impactful experiences, things people have said to us or done to us, consciously or subconsciously. Eventually, they can manifest in physical illness unless we address them. that paragraph to me was so powerful.
Thank you.
So my question is, and you named some phrases here, but when I read that to you and you think about that space that you were in, what was one really challenging word or phrase that you really had to work through to not let it take over?
One.
You could name a few.
I would think the whole concept of if I wanted your opinion, I'd ask for it, and you're to be seen and not heard. And so for most of my life, and that's really where I'm comfortable now. Give me a background, give me a job to do, and I'm happy. I can do any background job. But it's moving out of that space because of those words that you are to be seen and not heard, and to move past that almost to embrace the I am,
right?
what I am, and not what I am not. So the I am to be heard. I am what I have to say is valuable.
Right.
Those kind of things.
Because when I read those phrases that you write about it, I felt that you were feeling belittled. I don't know. That's just something that popped out at me. Like you didn't have worth.
Probably not worth. That. Let me. How would I paraphrase that? Definitely not worth. Value. That what I had to say did not have value.
Okay.
And I have learned that if we have breath, we have value.
Yes.
And so we are here for a purpose. And so mine was figuring out what that purpose is. And
okay.
I don't know that we ever figure it out totally, but as we continue the journey, we bring value. My goal is to bring value and worth to other people,
right?
Or help them understand their value and worth. And the biggest joy is connecting with people who already understand their value and worth, and that we are all in this together. That we have there is so much joy to be had in this world when we step into who God created us to be, and we live that out, and stop listening to these voices in our head that they have no value. They're based in fear, and they only have the power we give them.
Right.
And I gave them power way too long because I didn't understand that.
And we give them power in our own head. I went to a class, it was a couple weeks ago, and it was very focused on that I am phraseology, right? And what that means. But the way she described how to treat ourselves versus how we treat our friends was very interesting and really impactful. And what she said was, for instance, if you called me up and you said, oh, I just went on a date with this guy, I don't think he's going to call back because, I'm not pretty enough, I didn't wear the right outfit, I didn't say the right things, obviously you're telling yourself these things. So your self-worth for yourself is, being beaten down by your own being. I would say to you, Deborah, what are you talking about? This guy is crazy if he doesn't call you back. You're beautiful, you're smart, you're intelligent. I love that dress you wore. So if you think of yourself as your own friend, so if you're having doubts about yourself, what would you say to a friend? Why don't we treat ourselves
exactly
the way that we treat others?
Yeah. Don't you think it kind of goes back even to the scripture, love your neighbor as yourself?
Yeah.
It's much easier to do that if you start by loving yourself,
right,
and coming from that perspective, and remembering, well, what would I say to Michelle if the same situation arose?
Right.
It's true.
Yeah, I thought that was just a really great way to look at it. I actually put that into practice the other week. Someone had not intentionally kind of made me feel stupid is the word I could use to describe it. And instead of just kind of backlashing at them and, getting really defensive, I thought, okay, if somebody called me, if a friend called me and said, hey, this happened, what would I say to them? And I used that on myself, and it really helped, A, me not beat myself up, but B, look at it in a reflective mind frame, but then C, have a conversation with this person and say, hey, I don't think you meant this, but here's how it made me feel. What did you mean? And I actually learned some things from it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I was taught too is that when when people use words towards us that we feel are negative about us, that sometimes it's more about what they're going on, what's going on in their life at that moment in time that they're struggling with.
Right.
And
They're reflecting onto us.
Right. And for so long, I just absorbed that, and what's coming out of somebody else's mouth, it must be true.
Right. Right.
If they're speaking that, it must be true.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I did for a while is because I owned that when someone would say things like that, then I would start to belittle myself so that it wouldn't hurt so much if I heard it coming from somebody else.
Oh.
That was very dangerous. And so that was one of those powerful aha moments when I realized that I was projecting, and if I was going to use those words on myself, why would I not hear them from somebody else?
Right.
And so changing my language of how I spoke about myself, how I spoke about the people around me, and to use words. You know, I love your show, the Sticks and Stones, because words have so much power that if we don't use them wisely, we set ourselves up for a lot of internal strife.
Thank you. And I agree. It's amazing when you start to be aware and cognizant of what runs through your head, what you say out loud, and great point how when someone says something to you that might not be positive, or even if it is positive, how you kind of digest that.
Because, well, we both learned that the word, you have choice, right, over the thoughts that you allow into your head.
Yep.
And are the thoughts toxic, or are they going to empower you to live in boldness, the life that you were created to live?
Yeah. You know, I've even gotten to the point where if I feel like a cold coming on, I am very hesitant to say anymore, I am sick, or I don't feel well. I try to say, I'm going to feel great.
Does this ever happen to you? I can remember at a time when I didn't want to do something, and when I was in school or at work.
I know where you're going with this. Go ahead.
And I'd say something like, I don't feel good. I'll be darned if I didn't have reason to stay home because I got sick. You know, the cold would start, all that. So you're right. I don't say those words anymore. The words lead, the thoughts lead, the words lead to actions. That whole thing is so true.
Oh yeah.
I actually have that little phrase in the front of my passion planner.
Oh, do you?
I remember that every day.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that I realize that too. I mean, we've all called in sick to work when we have not been sick, right? I know.
Well, we don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, we don't have to do that anymore. But I noticed that too. I would, lie and say, oh, I don't feel well. And within a week, then I'd actually get sick and I couldn't say it again. So I just have to power through. I mean, at that point, I didn't get the connection. I kind of thought it was karma. Like I'm being punished for lying.
What you think about, you bring about?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But words are just, I don't know, they're so powerful, and the more I learn about that from others and even from myself and my own, reading and gathering of knowledge, it's amazing what a shift and difference it can make in your life just by having a positive attitude. I mean, it sounds so simple, but it's hard work to change it and to keep it going.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's that conscious awareness. Every single time we open our mouth.
Right. Yeah. So why don't we tell people where we can read your words and get Wake the Health Up?
It's actually available Kindle and print version on Amazon.com. So go to Amazon.com. I just recently heard about a site called Books A Million.
Okay.
I need to check that out. But
is it listed on there?
someone had to order it, but I went in and looked, and now it is on there.
Oh,
So
okay.
you can check that out as well.
Cool. Yeah, so go over to Amazon, just type in Wake the Health Up, and this bad boy will pop up.
Yeah.
And it's worth it. It's got humor in it too, which I appreciate. Deborah has a very sly sense of humor. And she talks about poop. I had to work that in.
Yes, you have to talk about poop.
There's a whole chapter on it.
Actually, I got done with it, and I said, wow, I didn't write very much about poop this time. It's in there, but I didn't write a lot about it. And I thought, well, okay, another book.
Yeah, I think there just needs to be a spin-off, and it's like all about poop.
All about poop. Because it really is all about your poop.
Yeah, it is. I love that we keep saying poop.
Yeah.
Ah.
Where's your poop hat?
No censoring here.
Your favorite four-letter word.
It is. It is my favorite four-letter word. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. We're going to sign off here, and our new date and time, so it's the first Monday of every month, and the time we're still trying to nail down, but I'm going to say it's going to be about between 1 and 1:30. So I'll always post on my Facebook page and over on Instagram so you can catch the time. Thank you for being here again.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
It was a blast.
Yay. And thank you all for watching. We'll see you soon. Have a great month.